If you found this video because your doctor mentioned neurosarcoidosis, first let me say, I know how terrifying that word can be. A year ago, I had never even heard of it. Then one MRI changed everything. This isn't a video telling you what you should think. It isn't medical advice. And it certainly isn't me claiming I have all the answers. This is simply my story. It's a story of how I went from an abnormal MRI to the possibility of neurosarcoidosis, to months of testing, to seeing a specialist. And even after all of that, I was still left with more questions than answers. I hope that by sharing my journey, it helps someone else feel a little less alone. Now, I think it's important to start before anyone ever mentioned neurosarcoidosis. For quite some time, my body had been changing. Like walking was becoming harder, my balance wasn't right, my legs didn't feel normal. I couldn't lift my left leg without concentrating really hard, and sometimes not at all. Pain was becoming a part of my daily life, and some symptoms came on gradually, but others seemed to appear like almost overnight. Like many people, I started wondering what was going on. Eventually, my neurologist ordered an MRI. I didn't really know what to expect. I knew I had some arthritis, but the rest was a mystery. Well, among the arthritis, the MRI also showed a lower back issue that could explain some of my symptoms, but certainly not all of them. Then there was something none of us expected. The MRI showed inflammation in the conus medullaris, the very end of my spinal cord. What a surprise! I remember reading that report. The report didn't point to one single diagnosis. Instead, it listed several possibilities that could cause inflammation in the spinal cord there. Some were inflammatory diseases, some were autoimmune disorders, and some were infections, and some were even cancers. Reading through that list was overwhelming. I didn't know what to think. Like so many of us do these days, I immediately opened ChatGPT and started asking questions. Yeah, that was probably a big mistake. It was just terrifying. My neurologist explained why he wanted to follow through on the report with more testing. Years earlier, CT scans had shown that I had small lung nodules. I also had calcified granulomas. Neither of these things had really concerned me before. It was just a lot of people have them. Now they suddenly mattered. Sarcoidosis often affects the lungs. Neurosarcoidosis is rare, but it can affect the spinal cord. Suddenly, there was more than one piece of evidence pointing in the same direction. Not enough to diagnose it, but certainly enough that it needed to be investigated. That was kind of difficult to hear. From there, everything happened, or seemed to happen, more quickly. I had more blood work than I can remember. A lumbar puncture, additional CT scans, MRIs, appointment after appointment. Every new test came with the same question: will this finally tell us what's going on? Some tests were stressful, others were uncomfortable, but the hardest part wasn't the testing, it was the waiting for results. Waiting for someone to tell me what my future will look like. One by one, the results came back. Negative. Another one. Negative. Eventually, almost everything they were looking for had been ruled out. Yet after consulting with his colleagues, my neurologist referred me to a specialist with experience in neurosarcoidosis, because neurosarcoidosis was still on the table. That made everything feel even more real. When your doctor says they want a specialist involved, well, your mind immediately assumes the worst. I traveled to that appointment carrying questions, fears, and honestly, a lot of hope too. I wanted answers. I wanted a diagnosis. Any answers, any diagnosis. Throughout this entire process, there was one thought I couldn't let go of: my vitamin B12 deficiency. I wasn't trying to argue with my doctors. I wasn't trying to diagnose myself. I simply kept wondering, could there be another explanation? That question stayed with me through every appointment. My doctor told me, no, it doesn't show that way. Sometimes I did mention it to my doctor. Sometimes I just think about it quietly. I didn't know if it was connected. I just couldn't shake the feeling that it deserved to stay part of the conversation. Slowly, the picture began to change. The specialist thought my findings were unusual for an active case of neurosarcoidosis. And that didn't mean it was impossible. It just meant the pieces weren't fitting together the way they usually do. But she ordered a CT scan, which didn't show the kind of active disease everyone had been looking for. One possibility after another became less likely. Though my neurologist never completely ruled out neurosarcoidosis, he admitted it was not very likely that I had it. Hearing those words was one of the biggest moments of relief I've experienced, but relief doesn't always come with certainty. Because one question still remained. If it wasn't neurosarcoidosis, then what was it? Well, time passed. Life slowly moved forward. And then I had another MRI. And this time there was good news. The inflammation in my conus had decreased. When I met with my neurologist afterward, I asked him the question again that had been sitting in the back of my mind all this time. Could my vitamin B12 deficiency have caused this after all? His answer wasn't yes, but it also wasn't no. He told me he doesn't want to rule it out, though if it was very uncommon. He mentioned that another possibility is that the inflammation may have been related to long COVID. In other words, even today, we don't know exactly what caused it. If you're watching this because you're going through something similar, I want you to know medicine isn't always a straight line. Sometimes doctors have to investigate the scariest possibilities first. That's their job. It doesn't mean that's what you have. Sometimes every test answers one question, only to create another. Sometimes there isn't one perfect explanation, and that's okay. Looking back, I'm grateful that my neurologist never stopped asking questions or dismissed me. I'm grateful he never dismissed my concerns. I'm grateful he was willing to say we don't know, because we don't know. Well, sometimes that's the most honest answer medicine can give. My journey didn't end with a diagnosis. It kind of ended with relief and a better MRI and the understanding that not every mystery gets completely resolved. If you're in the middle of your own journey, I hope the story reminds you to keep asking questions, keep advocating for yourself, and don't lose hope just because the path isn't always straightforward. Today, I am much better than I was 9 months ago. I still have challenges. In fact, I'm preparing for a total hip replacement. But that's a completely different journey and had a little, if anything, to do with what I was experiencing back then. I have no doubt that correcting my vitamin B12 deficiency played a huge role in my neurological recovery. Whether it also caused the inflammation in my conus, I still don't know. Neither does my neurologist. My B12 deficiency journey deserves its own video, and honestly, it's a story all by itself. If you're interested in everything I went through, the nerve pain, the recovery, what helped me cope, and where I am today, click on this video. It may answer some of the questions I couldn't fit into this one, but if there's one thing this experience taught me, is this. Sometimes healing comes before all the answers do.